Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very, very glad you're with us. It's January 14th, 2021. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you happen to post a comment in the chat box or you have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comment, name, and pictures to appear. If you're on Zoom, we ask that you use the speaker view, which is on the lower left-hand corner. This is for anybody using a PC or Mac, if you're using a phone or a tablet. I don't think it works that way. And where that red arrow is, you can grab that white line and you can slide that back and forth to make the speaker bigger or smaller, whatever aspect ratio you'd like to have, ratio between the speaker and this slide presentation. If you're on Zoom, we ask that we will be using the chat box. So if you have questions, please feel free to enter your questions anytime. For those people on Facebook, if you have any questions, please enter in the comment field. I am monitoring that feed and I'll make sure those questions get answered. We are going to review 1 or 2 resumes today, live online. So if you'd like to submit your resume, you may do so using the chat box where that blue arrows. You can click on File and then you can attach your resume. But please remember, your information will be published on Facebook and YouTube, so you may want to delete your header information. You can hide it. You can just change your name to Mickey Mouse. You can be Angelina Jolie. You can be anybody who you like, Brad Pitt, whoever you'd like to be today. Just change it that way, and then we'll review that at the end of the session. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you can get on Amazon. I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group since 2007. I'm also a member of the Practice Interview Team since 2017. Our speaker today is Carol Brickell. She's a certified professional career coach. Carol, thank you for being with us, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you for the invitation. And I have received a chat message from one person that wants to share the resume, but the file didn't come through as an attachment. So you're welcome to try that again. And sometimes you have to save it as a PDF, especially if it has live links in it, to send it through chat. The other option is you could email it to Jeff. What's the best email address?
Webmaster@careerdfw.org.
Okay, so webmaster@careerdfw.org.
Right.
Yep.
And you should have Jeff Morgan just sent one. So do you have one from Jeff?
Okay, good. That's a different person. So it looks like we're full up there. That's great. Good. So as Jeff mentioned, we will be using the interactive features of Zoom. And if those on laptops using Zoom, if you could click on your participant box, and I'm going to do that and drag it over to my other monitor. So when you see me looking here, I'm looking at my other monitor. And when you open your participant box, if you can click on the green check mark, if you can hear me okay and see my screen, for those that have access to that. And then also for those on Zoom, click on the chat box, and then you could submit comments through chat. And then those on Facebook, you can submit your comments through the comments feature on Facebook, and Jeff will help me keep up with those. And I did get that second resume downloaded, so I'm going to save that. Thank you for that. Good. And then the first person, if you want to try to resend it again or send it to webmaster@careerdfw.org, and we'll review that as well. Great. And then if everyone on Zoom could click on the chat function and open up the chat box, and I do have a chat question, and those on Facebook, you can type in a comment. And my question for today is, how often do you modify your resume when you apply to a job online? So when you're applying for a job online, do you always attach the same resume, or do you ever modify it? And go ahead and type in just a couple keywords in chat. This gets us warmed up using the chat or comments function. And I'm starting to get Good answers. And somebody said all the time. That is the correct answer every single time. You want to make sure you've looked at that job description, picked out the keywords, made sure you do meet the requirements for the job, and then tweak your resume, especially the summary section and areas of expertise, so that the recruiter will see that, and the ATS system will see that you're a great match for that job. So, and somebody said quantity versus quality. I would focusing on the jobs that you meet the requirements and modify the resume. And if you sit back and just apply for the job and wait for a call, there's still a very small chance you'll get called for an interview. So the next step is actually you need to reach out to a person. So especially in today's market, you do have to take extra steps to get noticed. Good. Okay. Yeah, so focus on the jobs you want, modify that resume, and then follow up with a person. Good. And I'll be sharing resume tips from my perspective based on my background, and I'll share my background with you. And many of us joke, recruiters and career coaches, we all joke that if you were to ask 10 people for their opinion about your resume, you'd get 20 different answers, different opinions from different perspectives. So you'll be hearing some of my perspectives today, and Jeff may be adding some of his as well. And your job as a job seeker is to, just absorb all these ideas and apply what works for you the best. So I'll be sharing some ideas based on my perspective. And I worked for many years as a hiring manager at an IT firm called EDS that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. And then I took early retirement in 2012 because I wanted to get a job as a recruiter and help people find jobs. So I gained 6 years of experience as a recruiter, both in agency and corporate recruiting environments. And that gave me an amazing insight as to what really goes on in terms of recruiters reviewing resumes and presenting those to hiring managers. And I saw a lot of different feedback from hiring managers regarding resumes. So it was really worth that time. And then I retired from recruiting in 2019, and I've been devoting my time to doing career coaching work. And I serve as a volunteer panelist for the Dallas Pit Crew practice interview team. And if you have spent time on your resume, I also recommend you spend time practicing for an interview, because that's how you'll get the job. So, if you'd like to sign up for a practice mock panel interview over Zoom, you can send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com, and we'll post some information in chat about the Dallas Pit Crew. And you can practice your interview skills and get lots of feedback to work on. And I've been certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. Okay. And I'm looking at the chat box. Thank you for everyone for participating and writing in comments to my question. And somebody said, if a recruiter reaches out to you, should we tweak the resume before sending it to her, or once we have the JD? Yeah, if they reach out to you, if you have time, and in the game of recruiting, time is money, and time kills all deals. Sometimes if you wait even an hour, you can miss an opportunity. So maybe ask the recruiter for the job description, and ask them if you can take 15 minutes to look at the job description and make sure your resume is aligned to it to reflect the skills you have for that. So talk to the recruiter about it, but do it quickly. I know in the world of recruiting, I mean, sometimes we'd be sending over 3 resumes to a hiring manager, and then there was a 4th candidate, and I needed to send that over within an hour to get it considered, or the person missed the opportunity. So time is money. Okay, good. And speaking of the world of recruiting, I keep in touch with my colleagues that I worked with at Next Step Recruiting on a weekly basis. And I just got these hot jobs from them this morning. These are some hot jobs they are recruiting for in the Dallas area. And they recruit typically for accounting, finance types of positions, and also HR. And this week they're looking for quite a few HR positions. So if you meet any of the requirements for these positions, or just general HR finance accounting types of positions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with the right recruiter. Or if you have friends in HR in the Dallas area that are looking for positions, have them reach out to me because they're always looking for people. Good. And here's our agenda today. During the first part, I'm going to be sharing some advice from an expert that I interviewed this week. So I'll be sharing that with you. And we'll talk about the concept of a master resume. And then we'll walk through key components of a resume. And sometimes we review some of the key components every week. We put a different spin on it sometimes every week. If you've seen one of these Resume Thursday sessions, and if you have access to the participant box, click on the green check mark if you've seen one of these sessions before. If you've never seen one of these Resume Thursday sessions, click on the red X or type a message in the chat box saying, this is my first time. So I like to know my audience. And we design these sessions every week for returning people and also for people that have never been here before. So we have several first timers and we've had several people that have been here before. And that's why we always try to bring in new content and we review some of the important basic information. So we have a lot of first timers. Great. Good. Welcome to everyone who's joining in for the first time. And then during the last part of our session today, we'll review those sample resumes that were submitted. And so far I've received one, still didn't get the attachment for that first one. So, and sometimes we just have time to review one. Okay. So what I did this week in preparation for this session this week is I reached out to Charlie Zinger, who's a certified career management professional, and he's the vice president at Career Management Partners. And several recruiting leaders that I've worked with worked for Charlie. And so Charlie's been a mentor to a lot of people, and he's been a mentor to me over the years. And so I asked him if he'd be willing to spend a few minutes with me this week. And he was busy. He's busy on Thursdays typically. So he said he'd love to co-teach with me, but he's just usually busy on Thursdays. So what he did instead was we spent some time together earlier in the week and we talked about what he thinks are the most important points about resumes. And so I gathered his thoughts and I got his approval on these 2 slides that I'm going to share. And one thing or 3 things that he really says regarding resumes is to keep these 3 perspectives in mind. One is when you're submitting a resume online, keep the technology in mind regarding the applicant tracking systems. If you happen to know the name of any applicant tracking systems, type them in the chat box or the comments field if you happen to know any names of applicant tracking systems. Go ahead and type those in. I'm going to download a second resume that I've received. Thank you for that. Yes, somebody's already typed in Taleo and Workday. Those are 2 of the big ones out there. Yes, and he said, you know, your resume does need to be ATS compatible. And on my next screen, I'll walk through all of his rules regarding ATS being ATS compatible. And other systems include LinkedIn, Talent Hub, okay, Greenhouse, and then iCIMS is a big one. That's a big standalone ATS system. And then also your resume needs to match the job posting so that that applicant tracking system will give you more points and put you to the top of the list if you have more keyword matches. And then also the second perspective is to be sure to have good attention to detail. Somebody sent me a resume this morning to look at, and it was a beautiful resume, great experience, highlighted measurable accomplishments, but there are a couple of errors. There was a phrase that should have been hyphenated, but it wasn't. And there was a spacing issue. One of the titles was out of alignment in terms of spacing. That shows poor attention to detail. And I don't remember what else was on the resume because of that. So attention to detail is important. And when I talk to my recruiting friends, my recruiter buddies, and I ask them of the resumes they look at on a day-to-day basis, what percentage have errors in them? And they usually say at least 90% of them have errors in them, either typos, incorrect spelling, spacing issues out of alignment, or verbs that are inconsistent, like a past job with some verbs in the present tense or some verbs ending in ing and some in the past tense, that's a no-no. I have seen some resumes or some hiring managers put aside those resumes that have those issues. Good, I got that first resume, I think it was. So we're full up on resumes today. That's great. And then also, Charlie said there's certain style points that are important regarding a resume, such as how to display your dates if you've had multiple roles within a company. And we do have a slide that addresses that. So everything that Charlie said just absolutely aligned with my experiences as well. And he's been in the business and has been a mentor to many people. And then he put together this slide that I wanted to share with you regarding applicant tracking systems and when you're applying online and uploading your resume into the system, because those systems read the data in your resume and they parse the data. They take the data and they put it into the database. They take your name, your job titles, the dates you're with certain companies. And so you want to be careful about that resume that you upload. And he knows of 2 font styles that have never had any issues. And one is Arial, the other's Times New Roman. I also have seen people recommend, and I kind of like Calibri. And I've never seen any issues with Calibri. If anybody has ever experienced an issue with uploading a resume with Calibri font, please let us know. I've never experienced an issue. I like it. And Charlie also has never had an issue with Arial. And thank you, somebody's confirmed they've never had an issue with Calibri. That's great. And Times New Roman has the serif, little squiggly things. That's a style that some people like and some people don't. And you don't want your font to look larger than 14 point. That looks kind of elementary. No smaller than 9 points. I would even say no smaller than 10. 11 seems to be about the sweet spot in terms of the font size. You have a couple people that have used Calibri on their resumes with no problems.
And Carol, I think in some cases, Calibri 10 is probably equal to, it's a little bit smaller font. So like if you're using Arial 9 may be about equal to Calibri 10. I mean, I don't think they're size-wise the same.
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm going to look into that because, yeah, Arial 11 looks like Calibri 12 to me. Yes, it looks a little more elementary. Yes. And you don't want any text embedded in your footers or headers. That can really throw off. It can throw off Workday. It can throw off some systems or just not read that data. And your bullet points should only be those round black bullets, no arrowheads or starbursts, etc. And no other font colors. You don't need to use them, and just use black font. And no excessive bolding, underlining, or italics. Underlining can actually cause issues in reading the text because if you have a Y or a G that goes below the line, it won't read the characters correctly. I've never experienced issues with italics and ATS systems reading them, but you just don't want to overuse them. And you don't want to use excessive bolding or just bold certain words within a paragraph. It's as if you're telling the reader, I know you're not going to read this, so at least look at this word. So, okay. And somebody asked, what is wrong with arrowheads as bullets? That's a special character, and that can throw off the reading of the data. So the ATS system may glitch when it sees that special character and not read that bullet point. So that's the reason for that. Hopefully that answers your question. And then don't use any icons or pictures or graphics, and yeah, no photos of yourself or anything like that in the resume. Okay. Will tables throw it off? It can, yes. So don't use tables. Yeah, just use your tab key. If you have multiple columns, just tab over to those. Okay. And then what font do you suggest for the initial heading of applicant's name? I just used the same font, just made it bigger, like 14 point.
We're going to send you, we're going to put in the chat box the sample resume that we're going to show you today. We'll put that in there, and so you can copy the font sizes off of that if you're interested.
Yes, absolutely. And Charlie had a template too, and it was nearly identical to this one as well. Only his had Arial font. So, and no page numbers. You know, in today's world, there's two schools of thought of that. Most recruiters are looking at resumes online now, and if you put like a header with your name and page 2, it kind of breaks the flow of reading it. So it's not as needed anymore. Back in the old days, 5 years ago, when resumes are working in a big, or recruiters are working in a big bullpen and everybody was printing off resumes, you kind of needed it, but you don't need that as much anymore. So I kind of lean against putting a header with page numbers and your name. So good. And one concept, Jeff, I've actually kind of learned this concept from you, is the concept of creating a resume as a master resume. It's kind of a first step. Would you like to share your thoughts about this?
Sure. So, you know, I think that if you take some time, I'm sure, I mean, I know I have a file with resumes all the way back from when I graduated college, and, you know, you have them in a big file. But what you really should do is, instead of having these other resumes that you may have to go looking back and find out information on, create a master resume, something that's 10, 15 pages long, everything you've ever done since high school, and include a high school job if it was relevant to what you're doing, if it was a co-op or something. And you put all the details in it, who your supervisor was, the address of the company, the dates you worked, the exact dates that you worked, you put all that detail in there. And then when you see a job description, you go through and you delete everything that's not on the job description, because you want to make it so easy for the recruiter to go, you're looking for this, here's what I've done that matches and meshes with it. Because recruiters are only spend 7 to 10 seconds quickly looking at your resume first round, going through it. If you make it exactly what it is they're looking for, you have a better chance of getting that phone call. And I'm sure everybody here has done a lot of really great things, but those are other stories you can talk about maybe when you're in the interview. But make it easier for that recruiter to go, yeah, I need to talk to this person.
You're absolutely correct, Jeff, that recruiters really don't read resumes, they scan them. And I've even heard phrases like the 3-word test, that sometimes recruiters may just read the first 3 words in your bullet points, the first 3 or 4 words. So those words have to be very impactful and aligned to the job and to the job description. And we'll show an example in a couple moments of a job description and keywords in a resume and how to align those. And thank you for the comment. Somebody said they turn on the paragraph marks in MS Word so they can get rid of any hidden formatting. I do that as well. Any extra spaces or formatting. Great suggestion there. I love it when the audience adds ideas and suggestions. Thank you for that. And here are some characteristics of good resumes. Your goal is to make it easy for the ATS system and screeners like recruiters or hiring managers to see that you're a great match for the job. So you want the formatting to be clean, lots of white space. You want to highlight those key skills they're looking for. Overall length, as I talk with my recruiting buddies, the sweet spot seems to be about 2 pages for people with quite a bit of professional experience. If you're right out of college, maybe you can fit your experience on one page. In some situations, you may want to go on to 3 or 4 pages for highly technical jobs or higher education or government jobs, or if you have a lot of certifications. And we do have a little kind of polling question here that we can ask, or you can type this letter in comments or the chat box. And in terms of the number of years of experience, yes, we put the poll on Zoom. For those on Zoom, you can answer this polling question. The question is, how much experience do you show on your resume? You show all of your experience? You show only the most recent 10 to 15 years? Or do you show the most recent 10 to 15 years in detail and then have a section called prior relevant experience where you just list the company names and maybe the job titles? And we usually have a mixture, and it's really up to you to decide what works best for you. And I found when I was looking for a new recruiting job at the age of 59, I did option A, believe it or not. I just showed everything because I was networking with people that knew me. They knew I'd been at EDS forever. So I just showed the whole thing. I still kept it on 2 pages, but I don't know if that works for everyone. And when I was a recruiter, I saw a lot of resumes that were option B that were chopped off after 10, 15 years. And sometimes this caused confusion, especially in interviews, when I would say, tell me about a time that you managed a challenging IT implementation project. And they'd refer back to a company that wasn't on their resume. And I would miss some of their answer because I was trying to look for it. I'd say, it's not on your resume. They'd say, oh, so long ago. That would cause confusion. So what I found, and what I found hiring managers really appreciated, was to see the details of the most recent 10, 15, or maybe even 20 years, but then also list prior relevant experience in companies, especially if you think you may refer to those companies or those industries. So that's what I found hiring managers really seem to appreciate, but it is ultimately up to you. So thank you for participating in that poll. And then a question I get frequently, especially now that we're in the pandemic, and some people may have been laid off last year and they've had quite a big gap, maybe 6, 9, 12, 18 months since they've had a job. When I'm doing my career coaching sessions with people, I'll say, what have you been doing in addition to your job search during this time? Have you been doing any community leadership, not just volunteering, but doing community leadership? Have you been doing any consulting, even if it was pro bono consulting? Have you done any continuing education and gotten certified in areas that are applicable to your jobs? And if so, you might be able to add some bullet points at the top of your resume to fill up this recent gap, or between jobs if you have gaps. And I see somebody asked a question. I'll get to that in just a second. And if I were to fill a gap on my resume from, let's say, 2019 to now, I would put, instead of a company name and a job title, I put community leadership and consulting during this time, because I've served as a panelist and coach for the Dallas Pit Crew. And then also I provided consulting services for a local nonprofit organization. I helped their hiring leader conduct job interviews, or conduct those job interviews. Now that second bullet happens to be pro bono consulting, and it happens to be to a local church, but I was called in as a consultant. So it's true. So that's an example of how you can fill a gap. And I'll address a couple of questions that have come in. So does limiting experience to 15 years really help against age discrimination? It really doesn't, because especially if your resume just says director, VP for 15 years, it's kind of obvious that you must have had experience before then. So it just really looks like, if you just show 10 or 15 years, it looks like you're hiding something. And what I see people do successfully is show their recent experience and then say prior relevant experience and list those prior company names and job titles, but you don't have to put dates on the resume. This isn't a legal document. You can just list those company names and you don't have to put the dates, and you don't have to put the dates for your degrees. Now, when you fill in an application, sometimes you have to go ahead and disclose that. And regarding age discrimination, I got a job when I was 55 and one when I was 59. And I basically focused on jobs that I was really well qualified for. I networked with people or former bosses that knew me really well and either referred me to the jobs or hired me. And I just showed passion for the job, that I was really good at doing that type of work and I could really help them with the projects that they're working on. So I would that's my 2 cents about age discrimination. And what about using all caps for headers? It's okay. All caps are a little harder to read for the company names, so I avoid it, but I wouldn't use all caps too frequently. Actually, for these headers, like professional experience, that's okay. But like all caps for the company name and city and state, probably not. And all caps for the job title would be okay. Okay. Okay, if recruiter sends you jobs for job title you haven't had, Should you put that at the top of your resume anyway? I've had that discussion with some recruiters. I'll share my thoughts on that, and Jeff, if you have any input on it as well. Let's see, I'll use this example. If you've been a senior HR director and you're applying for assistant vice president, human resources, if you haven't been a vice president or assistant vice president, I would have a little heartache with you putting that at the top of your resume if you've never been that role. There's some recruiters that would say, if you think you can do the job, it's okay. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. What I would say is senior HR executive or a senior HR leader. That's what I would do. Jeff, do you have an opinion about that? If you've never held that job title, would you put?
Well, but I mean, if it's an equal job title, I mean, if it's truly, company A calls it this, and if you worked at a bank, everybody at a bank is a vice president, no matter what you are. So, everybody throws titles around differently. So I think I lean towards it's probably okay to put the title of the job you're applying for, as long as your experience backs it up. I mean, if you are that senior leader, or you were a director and now they're calling it a VP, those are sort of equal titles. I think you can get away with that. So
yeah, if you're a senior HR director at a huge company with 100,000 people and you apply for a VP job at a company with 2,000 people, that could be equivalent. You could put that in your cover letter or something and talk to the recruiter about that. So and talk to the recruiter about it. Now, I did see one resume once where somebody had been a technical salesperson and they wanted to do a job change and become a technical recruiter. So they put technical recruiter at the top of their resume, but they'd never been a technical recruiter. And I said, oh, that doesn't feel right. So they put technical IT professional or something. And in their summary, they said, experienced IT salesperson, highly skilled in recruiting, sourcing, interviewing. So they kind of had to smooth it over a little bit. So hopefully that answers that question. That's a really good question. Okay. And somebody says they like to put the title of the role that you're applying for at the top of your resume. And that's true. And just sometimes you just have to kind of think it through, make sure it's, you don't want to come across as falsifying anything. So you have to be a little careful in some situations. Okay, now we'll talk about key components of a resume. And these are some of the major key components. There might be other ones like certifications, publications, but these are the ones we're covering today. Okay, so your heading, you want it real clean with your name front and center and these 4 types of contact information. And you don't need to include your physical street address. In fact, that's recommended not to include that anymore. And then your summary profile, the top of your resume. Again, like this is a situation where somebody's a business analyst and they're applying for a business analyst job, and the template we'll be sharing with you. So you put business analyst at the top and center. So the recruiter sees, yep, this is the type of person I'm looking for. And then you should have an opening paragraph that echoes some of the words that are in the job description. You don't want to do a cut and paste exactly, but just kind of echo some of the key skills they're looking for. And then areas of expertise, the top ones across the top, and then the first column need to align directly with what that job is looking for. At a minimum, you have to modify this every time you apply for a job. And then somebody said the default line spacings, good. I think so. Yeah, I think default line spacings are okay. And then there's an optional section that you can have after your areas of expertise in a resume, and that's key accomplishments. And I see this most often. In fact, I recommend this for people in sales and business development jobs and other jobs where things are very quantifiable and you have to achieve certain targets and you want to show a track record of achieving those targets. I know when I was a recruiter, I was recruiting recruiters and I wanted to know that they could meet their targets. And so this is a good optional section for some jobs. And your professional experience section should be really clean, easy to read, company name with the dates you were at the company, right, justified. Bullet points, the text should never be longer than 2 lines, 1 line if you can, 2 lines at the very most. The verbs need to be parallel. And what I mean by that, especially for past jobs, all the verbs need to be in the past tense. You wouldn't believe how many resumes I see where it's a mixture. So please put those all in the past tense. And we've had some recruiting leaders and experts recommend that they like seeing a 1-line description of the company below the company name, especially if it's a company that people may not be familiar with. And that'll help the recruiter understand what industry you've been in. So that's also recommended. And then a few more notes about your professional experience. Like Jeff said, when you're applying for a job, you'll take your master resume, but really just focus on the bullets, the accomplishments relevant for the job you're applying to. So you don't want more than 5 or 8 bullets. I've seen some with 15 bullets, and that's way too many to read. And the bullet points shouldn't read like a job description. They should focus on your accomplishments. They should be the headlines. They should show the results. And I have a fun way of helping people when I'm doing career coaching sessions. I have a fun way of going through bullet points and helping people make them more results oriented. And it's called the So What game. If you've heard the So What game, type yes in chat or give me a green check mark in the participant box. Type yes. Yeah, so a few people have. Somebody said, I've heard you should not include lines between sections because the ATS system thinks it's the end of the resume. I don't think I've ever heard that to be true. So, but each system is different. So yeah, anyway, okay. Somebody wants to know what the So What game is. Well, I'll show you an example. And this is really a fun way to make an impact on your resume. And this is a new example based on somebody I've been coaching recently that's in sort of the marketing space. And she had a pretty good bullet point under her professional experience where she guided the next phase of brand evolution for an artist and managed some film production and publishing. You know, that's kind of neat. But I said, so what? What was the result? What I was really asking was, what was the result? What was the outcome? You know, what was the accomplishment? And she said, wow, you know, it really did increase the business opportunities and it led to 10 new commissions for my client. And so that caused her then to rewrite the bullet point to start that bullet with a stronger verb rather than guiding the next phase of evolution, multimedia. Now it's increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. Before she said she was talking about film production and publishing, but what she really was doing was implementing a PR strategy. And so she ended up using the words that the job description used more of. They didn't use film production or publishing. They used these other words that she had done. And so she highlighted things she had done that aligned to the job description. So she rewrote that based on stronger verbs, based on the result. So I highly recommend go through your resume, and you may not be able to do it with every single bullet, but read the bullet and go, so what? What was the impact? What was the outcome? What was the result? And see if you can come up with a stronger verb. And here is what Charlie was mentioning in terms of design style with resumes, especially if you've had multiple jobs within a company. I see so many times people will put the dates for these different jobs right justified. And remember, Jeff said recruiters are just scanning the resumes and they only spend about 7 seconds. And if they see those dates right and justified for all those jobs, they'll think you were a job hopper. But if those jobs were all within one company and you format it this way, then it shows a different story. It shows longevity. It shows you were promoted. It showed you stayed with that company through thick and thin. And so what we recommend is show the full dates that you were at the company. And then for each role that you had, put those dates in parentheses right up next to the job title. So, you know, in this case, I used italics just to make it look a little different. And I haven't heard, I asked a consultant at Workday if that causes any issues to use italics. And he said no for Workday. Now there are other systems. So anyway, okay. And then how many people have worked for a company that's changed names or has been acquired or merged with another company? Well, how do you handle that on a resume? There are several different options. Here are a couple ones. You can give the current name of the company followed by the old name, or the old name and then the date of the merger or acquisition. And in my case, in 2012, when I retired from HP, I actually put Hewlett Packard Enterprise Services, formerly EDS, or I could have said EDS, acquired by Hewlett Packard in 2000, I think it was 2008 is when we were acquired. So there are different options there. And then be sure to include your education and software skills, and especially software that they're looking for on the job description. If they ask for Excel, put Microsoft Excel, that'll give you more points. And if you don't have a degree, don't say bachelor's. Even if you're in a bachelor's program pursuing a bachelor's, don't say bachelor's, because then it almost looks like you're falsifying that information and saying you have a bachelor's when you don't. And so what we recommend is to say the school, city, state, and the area of concentration, and maybe the number of hours that you had. We've seen a couple of really good examples of that. And in the chat box, we've shared a sample resume. It happens to fit on one page, but it's fine if yours goes on to 2 pages. And then we also have a sample cover letter. As a recruiter, I never had time to look at those, but we're giving you a simple format in case you want to submit cover letters, because sometimes the ATS systems ask you to do that. And here's one of my favorite slides. And on the left in this slide, this is a job description for a business analyst job. And this is where I spend a lot of time when I'm coaching people and they want feedback on the resume. I'll ask them to give me a target job description, or if people are preparing for an interview or just preparing to apply for a job, I have them really, take just a few minutes and study the job description and study these keywords and key skills. Look at the section that says, here's what you bring, or here are the requirements or qualifications. In this case, they're looking for people with Agile and Scrum. And if you're applying for that job, make sure you're highlighting. If you have those experiences, make sure you're putting those on your resume. And up here at the top, they're looking for somebody who can document business processes. That's one of the main things. So make that front and center on your resume. So go through and really read these keywords. And if they're looking for a certain software, make sure it's listed, and you've got that skill, make sure it's listed in your resume. This takes just a few minutes and it is so valuable. And I mentioned that when you apply online for a job, and even if you've gone through this process and matched up the keywords, that's good. That kind of puts you to the top of the stack, but still your percentage chance of getting called for an interview is only 2%. So to increase that percentage, you need to reach out to a person, either somebody you know at that company that can forward your resume to the recruiter and say, you got to meet this person. They just applied and they meet all the requirements for the job. And maybe you can write a little message to your friend to forward to the recruiting manager, or reach out to the recruiter who posted the job if you can see the name of that recruiter. Or if you don't know the name of the recruiter, go a step up and go on LinkedIn and search for a recruiting leader. You can go to the company's LinkedIn page, click on people, and search for either recruiting or talent acquisition, and try to find a talent acquisition leader kind of in your geography, and reach out to them and let them know that you meet the requirements. And those are golden words for a recruiter to hear, a recruiting manager. And then the recruiting manager can either will talk to you or get you to the right recruiter. So I highly recommend that to increase your chances of getting an interview.
And in most cases, you do not need to list Microsoft Office, because everybody figures you know how to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint. But if they put it in the job description, put it on your resume, because that's just another matching term that will get you points.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jeff, good. So now I've stopped sharing my screen, and now I'm going to share my other screen. Let me see. I'll try to pull up the one that was sent first and then sent through email. And I'll have to do a new share. Okay. And hopefully, okay, can you see this resume, Jeff?
Yes, we got it.
I'm going to try to open my chat box and see if, oh, good, didn't get kicked out. And I do see a question regarding skills. Is it okay to list those you acquired by continuing education, though you haven't had time to use them in the job, like software skills? If I'll provide one answer, and Jeff, you're welcome to chime in on this as well. If, for example, you took a class on Visual Studio and you feel really confident in it, and maybe you did your own little project on the side where you feel absolutely confident, where you've taken the class and you've applied it on a project, even if it was your own little project, then yes. Or if you took a PowerPoint class and you built a really cool PowerPoint presentation, then I'd say, yeah, you've demonstrated you can use those skills, that software. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, tell the truth. Just
Yeah.
don't, just, yeah, tell the truth.
Yeah, yeah. If you just take a class and then put it on your software skills, I don't know, because then you really haven't demonstrated you can apply those skills, or you don't have a work product to show that you can do it. So, or if somebody asks you, okay, so how did you do that VLOOKUP? And you can't remember from that class you took. Yeah, if you say you can do a VLOOKUP, you better be able to say, well, it's like a formula. You do blah, 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 blah. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
And yeah, the question continues on what, instead of saying skills, can you say trained or training? It depends. I mean, if your resume, hopefully your resume is strong enough that that's not going to be what's going to get you in. Now, if it's something to list on the job description, I guess you could, list it to get points, but that's going to be at the very bottom of the resume.
And that would not impress me as a recruiter. If I saw that you took a LinkedIn class on Excel, anybody can sit through one of those classes. But if you did take a class and then you practice doing some pivot tables, I would say just put it as a skill. If you know you can demonstrate that skill, that's the key thing. Okay. Or if you became certified, that's fine. That's a certification. That's better. That's good. Okay, great. We've got just a couple of minutes, and thank you. So hopefully I addressed your question. What do employers really mean when proficient is in the job description? Proficient means you can use it to create a work product. So if you're proficient in PowerPoint, you can use PowerPoint to create a PowerPoint presentation, or you can create a spreadsheet with formulas and pivot tables. Proficient means you can do it. So then there's basic, intermediate, advanced, and you can take tests. And some companies will actually test you on those skills. Been hired for 3 different positions, which are brand new positions in the company, as a way to include this. I
don't think that's really important.
Yeah.
What's important is, what were your results? What did you do? What did you generate? What did you create? What did you, what were the results of your bullet points? The fact that it was a newly created position just for you, that's not gonna, you're never gonna see that on a job description.
Yeah, I'd say it's a new position, but so what? So, and maybe the so what was you established standard operating principles and increased efficiency based on being the new first leader of this organization. So ask yourself the so what question.
It would probably be a really good star story during an interview, but to get that interview, what you want to show on your resume needs to be some results.
Great.
So
good questions. And here is a resume with a title at the top. And what I'm going to do for our audience here is I'm going to scroll down this resume, and I'd like everyone to look at it and type in some words in chat or comment if you see things that you like. And if you see things to maybe improve, feel free to type those in as well. So it has an opening section and it has some keywords. And then there's professional experience with the dates to the right for the company. And then titles and bullet points and sub-bullet points. Additional relevant experience, Waldo's Dollar Mart. And I'm wondering if that's spelled wrong. And if that's spelled wrong, I might put this resume to the side, even though it's a beautiful resume. So if it's Dollar Mart, okay, maybe. So if anybody has any comments. Oh,
good spacing. I mean, as far as, good
yeah.
white space to write notes on stuff.
And it is Dollar, so that is spelled correct. Okay, good. Okay.
I think I would almost, in that case, I would put in parentheses, yes, it's spelled correctly, because that would be a sort of a humorous kind of thing, because you could get the recruiter to laugh and go, all right, I need to talk to this person, because
yes.
they made sure I knew that.
Yeah, or just say, yes, this is actually the company name, or something. That would be funny.
Yes, Dollar is spelled correct. I mean,
make me call you.
Yes, I'd want to call the person.
Laughing.
I'd want to call them because of that.
Yeah, I would too. So there's your feedback on that. And yeah, my initial reaction to this, it's nice and clean. I can't tell what font you used. It might be Arial, might be Calibri.
I think I would do away with the lines
pipe.
and
the pipe.
Yeah, yes. Do with the pipe signal and just give me nine things in 3 different columns that are sort of clean. Once again, it's sort of cluttered and it doesn't stand out.
Yes, it's harder to read. Like I'd miss vendor and broker. Yeah, it's harder to read. So I recommend more of the columns. And I also wouldn't read all of this text. I would just focus on the first section, and if they're looking for organizational customer service training and communication skills, that's great. Foster healthy working relationships. Yeah, if this is what they're looking for, good. Then maybe put things like project management or other things in your bullet points. Because I wouldn't read both paragraphs. Okay. And I like how you have the dates with the company name. Now, since you were here 9 years, I do wonder, did you have any other roles and maybe have a progression of roles? And if so, that might be nice to show. And I'm not real big on bullet points and then sub bullet points. These ones with I'd rather just have bing, 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 bing bullet points, if possible. Okay.
And so producing reoccurring, so the silhouette game, produce reoccurring reports plus ad hoc requests. So, what did it, give me results, sell.
Yeah, you may have increased business sales opportunities. And if you can quantify it, that's even better by producing ad hoc reports. Good. Oh, somebody had a good suggestion is to include the URL for the company to prove that it's that it's really the right name, because out of everything on your resume, that's the one thing I looked at. That's funny. And that's what recruiters like to nitpick. Okay. Processing. Okay, consultant. Let me see. So Marsh, you're a premium team lead. Okay, then you were a consultant. I'd want to know if there's a company name or maybe independent consultant. I get confused on this one because I'm wondering, what entity were you working for? Were you working for yourself? If so, I would say independent consultant. And then I would just have bullet points because I get kind of confused where it says process and training, scope and deliverables. That's kind of confusing to me. Okay. An additional relevant experience. This is exactly what I was talking about. Rather than chopping off your resume there, showing you had additional experience, especially if it's relevant. Yeah. Help desk, that shows customer service. Yeah. Okay. Trainer, that's great.
And would it be, and it's okay probably under relevant experience, if you have maybe one bullet point you wanted to add, 1 or 2 bullet points, you could add those bullet points there.
You do have space. Yes.
Right? She took her header information away, so that's why there's probably space here.
Yes.
But
I agree with that, Jeff. And writing best practices are, if you're going to have 1 bullet point, you need to have 2. You shouldn't have just 1. So if you do add bullet points, I would add 2. Good. Okay, I do see a couple of comments and we're starting to run out of time. Let's see. I've seen some leaders' values and relevant knowledge was never used, showed. Okay, somebody's saying having training in something even if it wasn't used. Okay. Yeah, that's probably true. Are pipes okay? I'd say they're okay, and they don't typically foul up the ATS system because they are on the keyboard. I would just say it makes it harder to read the text. And the works are center justified instead of left works. Some odd spacing between some words. Oh yes.
She's
the
right
words
justified. Or she's, yes, both margins are justified.
Yeah, it's double justified, so that causes strange spacing. I recommend just doing left justified, yes. But overall, good marks on this. And for the 2 resumes that we didn't review today, you're welcome to come back to next week and make a note or let us know that you tried last week and didn't get made, and we'll try to cover you. And if you have any urgent questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and send me any urgent questions, and I can respond to quick questions over LinkedIn.
Great. And here is Carol's LinkedIn profile. Here's what it looks like, so you'll find the right Carol. If you want to send Carol a LinkedIn request or send me a request to connect, please be sure to write a personal note. Let us know why we should connect with you. As whenever you whenever you want to connect with somebody, just tell us you were part of today's session, and I'll be glad to connect with you as long as you tell me. If you don't send me a personal note, though, we won't be connecting. I'll sort of tell you that. So Carol, thank you very, very much. I want to tell you about some other training. Oh, for those people on Facebook, if you'd like to get the sample resume or the sample T cover letter, you can send an email to webmaster@careerdfw.org, webmaster@careerdfw.org, and let me know what you need, and I will get that out to you no later than Saturday. Just depends on what day I get into this account. Please join us. We've got some other training tomorrow. The North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Our talk is going to be on Clifton Strengths, Strengths Finders, using it in your job search. What is Clifton Strengths? If you just know a little bit about it, you probably want to join us if you've taken it. If our speaker's really, she uses it all the time. It's really, she coaches people on Clifton Strengths. So it'll be a really good presentation tomorrow morning at 9:30 Central Time. Next Tuesday, our LinkedIn Tuesday seminars. Every Tuesday next week is Terry Sullivan. He's going to talk about how to tell your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. We have 4 different speakers. They all talk about LinkedIn from a little bit different aspects. So join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock for that. And then next Wednesday, our Interview Wednesday session will be on session number 3, Star Stories. What is a star story? We're going to go into a real deep dive on how to prepare them, why you need them, how to use them in a interview. So once again, this is part of lessons 1 through 5 are part of preparation. And when we hit lesson 6, that then moves into the actual interview. And if you've missed lessons 1 and 2, they are on the Career USA YouTube channel. Oh, here we go. So this session will be recorded. It will be up on the Career USA YouTube channel later this afternoon. It is going to also be on the Career DFW Facebook page. You can always go back. You can watch this one again if you want to catch up on something. You can watch any of the prior ones we've done. They're all there. Follow us on Facebook. Please like us on Facebook. On the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. That way you'll find out every time we upload a new program. Right now there's 130, 135 different workshops that have been recorded on the YouTube channel. Here's what that YouTube channel looks like, the Career USA YouTube channel. Click on the playlist button where the green list, you want to see playlist. And then underneath it, you'll see effective resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers. Don't click on the video, but click underneath where you see it says view full playlist, where the red arrow is. And when that happens, up will come a list of all the different events that we've had and dates on, when that was recorded. And if there's a topic, we'll have the topic in there also. So if you'd like to also, you can join our LinkedIn groups on careerusa.org and Career DFW. We've got two different LinkedIn groups. The Career DFW LinkedIn group is over 12,800 members. We just passed that this past week. And you can join both. You don't have to be in the DFW area to join the Career DFW LinkedIn group. Expand your connections. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Carol's a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I've never gotten paid to do any of this in the last 12 and a half years. But Career DFW, we survive on donations. It helps pay for the Zoom account. It helps pay for the federal and state filings and other things that we do have to spend money on. Please consider making a donation next time you land your next great opportunity. And thank you very much for joining us today. Carol, thank you again. And join us. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow or the next day.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks everyone for your active participation. I do appreciate it.